Hi, this is Kat Sturtz from rockingyourpath.com with another episode of Fast Action Fridays. Today, my special guest is Dr. Alice Cash, who's a musicologist and therapist. And her specialty deals with the healing power of music, in addition to being a pretty good classical pianist herself. Welcome to the Fast Action Friday show, Dr. Alice. I am so excited for you to share some of the things you've learned to help other people in your career. And we're going to also talk about your new book coming up. Can you share a little bit about yourself with everyone?
Sure. Thank you, Kat, for having me today and giving me this opportunity to spread my message a little bit more. Music has been my passion really since childhood. And originally, I was interested in entertaining people with music. But the older I got, the more I realized the healing powers of music and wanted to find ways to use music with all different kinds of situations and challenges to make things better. So I did not go into music therapy at that time because that was not available in Kentucky as a major. So I actually majored in piano performance and then went ahead and got a PhD in musicology in 1990. And we still didn't have music therapy. So even though I got a job doing research into the healing power of music at the U of L Medical School, I decided to get another master's in clinical social work. So I combined that master's with my PhD in musicology, which is research in music, and my bachelor's and master's in piano performance to demonstrate and to use music. And yeah.
I think it's amazing that it's taken so long for music to be looked at as therapy. When I know from learning about you and your work, using music in medical situations has been around for ages.
Exactly. Yes, the ancient physicians in Greece and Rome knew the healing power of melody, of harmony, of certain rhythms, of certain instruments specifically for certain illnesses. And all of that was just considered the norm in healthcare at that time. But as we got more civilized, people wanted numbers and proof and documentation. And so music kind of went by the wayside as a seriously considered healing modality and was considered kind of an old wives' tale that music could do all of these things.
Along with art and dance as being
and drama, yes.
frivolous.
Just entertainment.
Extra stuff. You're right. Exactly. So what did you learn that brought you closer into the healing power of music and what it could do for the layperson that gets anxious about medical procedures and things like surgery and all of that?
Right. Well, what I learned is that music is an absolutely natural relaxer, and people know intuitively what to reach for when they're feeling stressed out and overwrought over some situation. So, and it varies. It's a very individual thing. Some people, when they get home at the end of the day, they just want to put on the smooth jazz station and just chill out to that. Other people want classical music like myself. I'd rather listen to Chopin nocturnes if I'm overwrought. And then there are people who want to sort of not necessarily relax, but dance it out with some oldies, and so they turn to the oldie station and get rocking to that. So
Motown, baby.
Motown, absolutely. So it's very much a generational thing. It's a regional, geographic thing, and what you were exposed to growing up that you consider positive and relaxing and comforting and, like a pleasant apple pie baking in the oven kind of thing.
I grew up with my grandmother and my great grandmother and my great aunt singing old Irish tunes.
Yes.
And that always brings me calm and good memories. But it's not where I would naturally go if I'm anxious.
Right.
I don't think about bringing that into my life on purpose, but I do know that that's the effect it has when I hear it.
Right, right. Well, I know I was on a group page the other day for music therapists, and the question was, what do you do when you're feeling anxiety or stress? And because I grew up as a minister's daughter in the Deep South, I said, I love to just go to the piano, take out an old Methodist hymnal, and start playing from the beginning as far as I can get in an hour. And that just immediately lifts
Mhm.
the stress and the worry off of my shoulders. And I feel human again and like I can do what I need to do.
I think there's a lot of energy that comes through our bodies when our fingers are active. I know I feel that way when I'm journaling,
Hmm.
and usually handwritten, just to get that feeling.
Yes.
I definitely do not have your musical talent. I love music, love to sing. Nobody wants to listen, but that doesn't mean I can't appreciate good music.
Right. Absolutely.
All right, so bring us more into the here and now and what you've been doing with people with music to help them.
Okay, well, let me just back up just a teeny bit and let you know that after I started working at the medical school, I almost immediately started getting invitations to speak in the community and around the state, and then eventually farther and farther out into the world. But I would do just kind of a bird's eye view of the history of healing music and how people are using it today. And one day, a friend of mine said, Alice, I've heard you speak many times now, and the one thing that you speak about that I don't think many people are aware of already is the power of music during surgery. And she said, I really think you should go deep with that and maybe just start focusing on that eventually. So I took her word to heart and just started talking to people who I knew were about to have surgery about what sort of music they would listen to and letting them know that the person can hear during surgery. Everybody thinks, oh, you're under anesthesia. You're not going to hear anything, but that's not true.
Hmm.
So you look like you were about to say something.
No, I'm just remembering about the times I've been in the hospital, and I've been someone who had a near-death experience and spent a week in a coma. And I do have memories of being able to hear things when I was, quote, out of it. So,
Right, right. Well, I'm glad to hear you say that. Not that I'm sorry you had to go through that, but one of my favorite stories is about a man that was in a coma for 6 weeks.
uh,
And every day, one of the nurses, would just come in to take his vital signs and do what she needed to do, but would absentmindedly be whistling or humming or something. And he did experience a full recovery. And after many months, said, I want to thank the singing nurse. And the people at the hospital said, we don't have any singing nurse. And he said, oh, yes, you do. There's a nurse that came in every day and she would be whistling or singing. And when she came in, I knew that I was still in this world because other than that, I wasn't sure where I was in some in between state. And
mhm.
so when people are in a coma or unresponsive, it's wonderful to take their hand and hum or sing something that you know they like, even if it's just You Are My Sunshine or My Old Kentucky Home, Silent Night. You probably won't be doing My Old Kentucky Home, but something that's comforting to them. I want to hold your hand, you know.
I might be doing my old Kentucky home. My dad and his parents are both from Kentucky. So,
Oh, really?
I
Okay.
have Kentucky roots, legitimate Kentucky roots. Yep,
All right.
absolutely. That experience that you described reminds me of how we now feel about babies in the womb absorbing or being exposed and feeling the vibrations or the actual music and stimulation from the outside as well.
Yes. And one of the things I learned in my early days at the medical school was that at the beginning of the second trimester of pregnancy, the fetal ear is beginning to be functional.
Hmm.
And the unborn child can hear first the mother's heartbeat, the blood circulating, and the digestive sounds in the mother's tummy. But as she gets to the beginning of the third trimester, the baby can actually hear almost everything the mother is hearing. So it is very important to maintain a healthy sonic environment, not be going to rock concerts, not be around people who are yelling and screaming at each other, and even better, at nighttime, the mother and the husband singing to that baby. Just choose like 4 or 5 songs that you both know really well. And there have actually been studies that show that when the baby is being born, if the parents start singing those songs, the baby will stop fussing or crying and start looking around for those voices and make eye contact and be soothed. And those same songs in the first 3 months of life are amazing for calming and soothing the baby. It's a sonic blanket for that baby and a wonderful gift to give.
I think that's wonderful, and I'm glad you described that for us. All right, what can we do, and what do you have that helps people who are totally freaked out about medical procedures and the thought of having to undergo surgery and the trauma of how they might recover from surgery? I know you've got some special things that have been wonderful to use. My husband's used some of your programs, but I want you to describe them because nobody describes them as well as you do.
All righty. Well, I had been focusing on music with surgery since about the mid to late 90s. And my idea initially was I'll just put together a CD for everybody that comes to me. And then I realized, okay, that's not going to reach nearly enough people. So then I approached a hospital about making a series of CDs that they could license as their own hospital music for surgery CDs. And I was aware that music could entrain or synchronize the patient's rapid heartbeat that they had before surgery, their rapid breathing, which does not provide enough oxygen to the blood, by playing slow, steady, purely instrumental music that we could calm the person down. But my thought initially was having CDs playing in the room.
Mm-hmm.
So then in 2005, I went to a conference that was for innovation, and everybody was coming up with all of these ideas. And an idea literally was just put into my brain, I feel like, by divine providence that said, what about having a chip and headphones that the patient alone would be listening to, and it would have that music with the slow, steady tempo, purely instrumental, that entrains or synchronizes the body's heart rate and breathing. And I realized as soon as I had the idea, well, I had no idea whether a chip could be put in headphones that would play music. But I thought, another benefit is going to be that the surgeon nowadays often has his own music playing, and it's often upbeat rock and roll, like the one surgeon here in Louisville that was literally playing the song Another One Bites the Dust while he did surgery and thought it was funny. And I thought, okay, that's it. The patient has to have their own soothing music. And if they have headphones, the surgeon can play whatever he wants, and the patient will have their soothing music. So I mentioned this to the professor, of course, who was an inventor and knew all about patents. And he said, the first thing you got to do a patent search, make sure nobody has already thought of this. To my great joy, no one else had thought of that. So I got a patent on this concept in 2008. And in 2009, I found headphones. They were already on the market, one type of headphone that I could purchase. It had a built-in MP3 player, and I could load my classical playlist that I had put together of slow, soothing, steady music. And I started selling those initially as Surgical Serenity headphones.
And that's cool. I know for people listening to this, some of them won't realize that this was ahead of, say, the little iPods that came out, which I needed my granddaughter to show me how to use with the little circle. And
Right.
we didn't have the little earphones. We did have some transistor radios with headphones and various things. But this was a new concept, and
Yes.
I love the symbiotic nature between being under anesthesia in a hospital room and what you described happens with babies and their developing ear, and the importance of that connection, because it's very easy to see that connection, uh,
Yes.
that relationship, and how if it's true for this situation, then yes, it's probably true for this situation too,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
N-
We decided that we would use the classical music initially because it was in public domain. It
Mhm.
had the right qualities and characteristics. But then eventually people started saying, Alice, we need to have other genres of music. So I literally commissioned a local jazz group to create a jazz playlist. Not anything familiar because, once music has been copyrighted or licensed, I can't sell somebody else's music. So these jazz musicians created a playlist and they specifically made it between 60 and 80 beats per minute, which is the tempo of the healthy resting heartbeat. So when you go into surgery and you're agitated, some people's heartbeat is way over 100, 110, 120. And this, not slowly but quickly, begins to bring the heartbeat down to the same tempo that the music that's coming into their ears through the eighth cranial nerve provides.
Mhm.
And now we have we have 5 playlists, but 3 are specifically for surgery. The fourth is a lullaby playlist that can be used for surgery, and I actually used it last week. I've just had 2 cataract surgeries, and I used the lullaby playlist with my Bluetooth headphones during my second cataract surgery. Worked like a charm.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's marvelous innovation, and it's inexpensive.
Yes.
People who have a smartphone can easily download it from the internet, whether you have an Android like I do or an iPhone type device.
Right.
Can you give us some ideas of the reception within the medical community about individuals wanting to use this? Now, personally, I'm very good at meditation, and even if it's in short spurts, I can bring my blood pressure down quite easily, and I have low blood pressure anyway, so it's a little
Mm,
easier for me than other people. And surgical procedures don't really make me all that anxious, but I know other people, it really is a problem for them, and having a solution with music, which is something that's familiar and non-frightening in any sort of way, is
right.
really a benefit to them. So, can you
Yes.
describe some of the situations people using your solution have with their medical professionals? Are they
Yes.
getting a warm reception, or are they having trouble?
I would say 75 to 80% of the doctors think it's a great idea and possibly more. And one of the reasons that they're coming around quickly is because now that music therapy is a vibrant profession. They do a lot of research, and there are so many studies, not only from music therapy, but from surgery journals, nursing journals, holistic health journals, things like that, that there is no question. And NPR is doing things all the time about benefits of music and surgery. So, for example, 5 years ago, when I took my husband for cataract surgery, I had to do just a little bit of a sales job. When they saw the headphones, they were like, "Oh, he can't wear those." Just period. He can't wear those. And I said, "Well, these headphones were created for surgery." And I showed them the box, surgical Serenity headphones. and I had a brochure ready that quotes doctors and research. And immediately they were like, oh, well, let me go ask the anesthesiologist. So they went and brought him, and he's like, oh, yeah, there's all kinds of articles about the benefits of music during surgery now. So, and I said, these are brand new. They haven't been passed around to lots of people. And he said, sure, he can wear them. And when the surgery was over, Charles didn't want to take them off. He said, oh, this music is just so wonderful. And he wore them all the way home. And last I saw him, he still had them on. But now this past Wednesday, when I went for cataract surgery to the very same place, they didn't say a word. I mean, nobody even acknowledged. And so I had to kind of ask a few people, what do you think about the headphones? Oh, great idea, great idea. So I feel like it's more and more accepted if the patient comes already prepared with the Bluetooth headphones and the app on their phone. It might be slightly easier, but what I'm pushing for is for hospitals to subscribe to my 5 playlists and then provide Bluetooth headphones in every OR. Right. So that the patient doesn't even have to worry about that. And if they haven't heard about it, then it's going to be waiting. But let me just say, Kat, I think orthopedic surgery particularly is a great candidate for this. And during orthopedic surgery, where they're replacing a knee or a hip or a shoulder or even an ankle, there's drilling, there's sawing, and there's hammering. And nobody wants to hear those things.
It's kind of like going to the dentist. I don't mind going to the dentist. I don't like the sounds that I have to hear when I'm in the dentist chair.
Right, exactly. So the nice thing about having the Bluetooth headphones, they are absolutely noise canceling. Now the preloaded headphones are noise muffling, but not noise canceling. And that can be a plus too, because if you're not under general anesthesia, and there are knee surgeries done just under regional or spinal anesthesia, the doctor may need to ask you a question. And if you're wearing the preloaded headphones, you can easily hear that and respond. But
that was, excuse me, that was the case when my husband used the headphones. He was completely relaxed, but when a nurse came in to check on him, he could hear her and could respond. And his experience was very much like the one you just described for your latest one, where they really didn't notice he even had them. They just assumed he was listening to music. And we asked for permission if he could wear them into surgery specifically, because there was no problem wearing it before or during recovery. That's really not the issue. That's kind of a given at this point, right. Somebody listening to music or radio or their iPhone or something. But going into surgery, it was exactly like you said. I happened to have the box with me, and I was able to also show them on my phone because I had downloaded an app directly to my phone, and said, this is it. And the anesthesiologist said, nope, no problem, and whisked them away. And I asked several staff members who were in the surgical suite at the time. The doctor never even mentioned or questioned what the patient was wearing.
Isn't that amazing? Yes.
Yep, absolutely.
And that's my experience. And what I want people to know is that these are not just for surgery, but like you say, dental procedures are a major place to wear the headphones, as well as medical tests like colonoscopies and endoscopies, biopsies, just a simple blood draw. I had a man tell me a little while ago that he literally passes out every time he has blood drawn. And, it's all about what your early associations were with these kind of procedures and how your mother was responding to you getting a shot. As a therapist, I know sort of all the different angles that play into this. And this is just such an easy solution, very cost effective. Now, one question people invariably want to know is, will insurance cover it? And the answer is not yet. I do think that eventually insurance will not only cover it, but will insist upon it because it's a way to decrease the amount of medication the patient needs. And that automatically creates a safer procedure. The less medication you can be putting into somebody, the less chance of bad reactions, of addiction, which is so big in our society right now with the opioid crisis. So,
Yeah.
I think insurance companies will insist.
All valid points. And something else I want to point out is your solutions are relatively low cost. I mean, you can download an app for right now for under $10, right?
Correct.
And people would download it to a device they already own. So it's not extra cost to get a device.
Right.
Before we close, I want people to know that while there, like you mentioned, there's more information out there about music therapists and music therapy, there really isn't anything specifically for what you've done and using music in a specific way under the situations you've described. You have a book that explains this now, and it is available on Amazon now. If you're watching this interview, you'll see a line and a URL where you can go check that book out. If you're listening to the podcast, make sure and go to rockingyourpath.com and search for the post with Dr. Alice Cash and music. It's called the book is called Having Surgery: Using Music to Reduce Anxiety and Pain Perception.
Correct.
All right. Your first book?
This is my first book on the topic with music and surgery. Of course, I wrote a doctoral dissertation 25 years ago, but people probably are not as interested in Wanda Landowska and the revival of the harpsichord. I did write a little book right around 2000 called Notes on Tuning Your Life with Music.
Oh.
And I'm planning to go back and expand that now that I'm finished with the surgery book.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that one as well. And I want people to know that you know this field and this specialty in particular, using music in its healing power. Way, healing power of music, so well inside and out. And you've spoken all over the world on this topic. You're based there in Louisville, Kentucky, and people can reach out to you through your websites. And do you want to tell people what those two websites are?
Yes, I'll mention first the surgicalserenitysolutions.com. That's the one that talks all about music during surgery, obviously. But my original website is healingmusicenterprises.com. And that's where you can actually download a form to hire me as a speaker for your local association or university or church group. And I love to travel and speak to people about the healing power of music in general, with babies, with Alzheimer's patients, with labor and delivery, you name it. But this summer, I will be speaking in Norway at a conference on healthcare innovation, and I will be speaking about music during surgery specifically. And
you've been to Tokyo and
to
elsewhere.
Korea. I've spoken in Seoul, South Korea, and Daegu, South Korea. I've spoken, of course, in England and France and Italy, Germany, and Canada, Hawaii, all over the country. And I love speaking, and really I expect to be doing a lot more of that now.
That's great.
Yeah, would love to speak to the group.
You're also a new member of my community on Facebook, which is the Rocking Your Path community. So if people have specific questions and would like to ask you a question or need to find a way to connect with you for one of the reasons you just described, we'll make sure that you're notified of that. They can post there or message me or message you in the community. Thank you again for spending time with me and my listeners on Fast Action Friday. Wishing your book and your continued success and use of the healing power of music. Great success. I know tons of people that will be excited to try this out for themselves.
Wonderful. And thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to spread the word.
My pleasure, Dr. Alice. And this is Kat Sturtz closing another episode of Fast Action Fridays. Remember to come back next week when I will have another great guest. Until then, remember to keep rocking your unique path to success. Bye-bye.